President Trump used yesterday's Phase 1 trade deal signing to thank a litany of people, including a number of Kevins in the room, and one of them was former Federal Reserve Governor Kevin Warsh. And Trump appeared to regret passing him over for the top job at the Fed in favor of Jay Powell. Take a listen.
Kevin Warsh. Kevin, where's Kevin? I don't know, Kevin. I could have used you a little bit here. Why weren't you more forceful when you wanted that job? Why weren't you more forceful, Kevin? You're a forceful person. In fact, I thought you were too forceful maybe for the job. And I would have been very happy with you.
All right, joining us now with more insight, Sam Bell, founder and policy director at Employ America in Washington. Sam, great to have you joining us. You know every word that anyone who's in the Fed's orbit has ever uttered on basically anything. What would a Federal Reserve under Kevin Warsh, in your view, have looked like relative to what we've seen from Chairman Powell?
Thanks for having me on. There are two possibilities. One is Kevin Warsh is Fed chair, and he's significantly more hawkish than Jay Powell. The other is Kevin Warsh is Fed chair, and he discards everything he's ever said or written about monetary policy and, in effect, does Trump's bidding. So those were our two outcomes if Warsh had been picked, or if Trump had tried to fire Powell and install Warsh.
So just to be clear, what you're saying is that Kevin Warsh has a history prior to, say, the election of President Trump of expressing fairly hawkish monetary policy, or relative to what the policy was at the time, writings on this, speeches, et cetera. And so the only way that Trump would be happy with him is if Warsh were not himself, but essentially Trump's guy.
Exactly. I mean, for 10 years, Kevin Warsh has been blasting the Federal Reserve for being too easy. And even he wrote a Wall Street Journal opinion piece in December criticizing Jay Powell for the coming hike in December. But even a month prior, when he went on Jim Graham's podcast, he was talking up, Jay Powell's not being tough enough, not normalizing fast enough. So he has a deeply hawkish record, and he was willing to save Wall Street, but he was really quick. He was a Fed governor, and he was really quick to pull the plug on Main Street in 2010, et cetera.
And so going back 29, he was still on the Fed in those years. That was obviously a crucial time. What was he saying during that sort of like crucial, like immediate post-crisis period when there was a lot of debate still and people thought that hikes might come as soon as by the end of 2009?
Yeah, he was he was concerned about inflation, but the main thing is he wanted the Fed to pull back so that Congress could take on structural reforms. So he was very critical of the Fed for sort of enabling government deficits. That was one of his big talking points. And he danced around the inflation question. I mean, he, for a long time, has said the Fed has been too easy and should have normalized. And funny enough, he was criticizing Barack Obama for not being free trade enough. So it's kind of funny that he even showed to this China tariff, whatever, signing deal.
Sam, there was a report in Politico that the nomination of Judy Shelton to the FOMC, which has been talked about for a while, may finally be moving forward. Where does she stand? I mean, I think she was a gold bug, but is there reason, or some sort of gold standard type? I don't want to use a slur. A gold advocate, a sound money type person. Is there reason to think that if she were on the Fed board today, that she would continue to advocate for like a major monetary restructuring?
Yeah, I mean, take the most hawkish person on the Fed in 2009 and times it by a lot. She wrote an op-ed in February 2009, the first line of which said, "Let's go back to the gold standard." And it's not just the gold standard. She has a very expansive vision. She wants a global common currency with full gold convertibility. She wrote a paper for Cato in 2012 that put forward a universal gold reserve bank, which she said would operate as sort of a global monetary authority. And maybe she couldn't do this on her own in the first year, but Bloomberg has reported that if she gets on as a governor, she could be a Fed chair candidate, or even, Trump could try to put her in charge of the Fed, even sooner than when Powell's term is up. So gold. I mean, she is a consistent gold standard supporter, full convertibility, and she has a very expansive vision for what that means.